It would be improper if you did not serve a sentence for each victim individually. The total number of years are 158 years in prison. This matter is concluded.
I hope that I will one day be able to hug you and see you on the other side of these walls.
What would you do if someone you trusted turned out to be your worst nightmare? For the women who met Dr. Stephen Matthews, a respected cardiologist in Denver, this question became a terrifying reality. Matthews seemed like the ideal catch. He was a successful doctor with a lot of charm, intelligence, and confidence. Matthews's dating app profile showed a respectable professional who could heal hearts both physically and emotionally. But there was a disturbing truth behind the picture. Matthews wasn't looking for love or companionship. He was hunting his next victim with calculated precision. He would offer women a drink to get them to come to his house, where their night would quickly turn into a hazy, fragmented nightmare. Stephen Matthews, a well-known and respected cardiologist in Denver, seemed to have it all: a successful job, a charming personality, and a way of making people feel at ease. His accounts on dating apps like Tinder and Hinge showed him as an athletic, smart doctor with a warm smile and a dog he loved. Women looking for real connections often found him attractive because he seemed like a stable, kind man who would be safe to go on a casual date with. The women who met Matthews came from a wide range of backgrounds, including teachers, medical professionals, students, and people who were just starting out in life. Many of them were very successful and had a lot of goals and dreams. Like most people on dating apps, they were looking for someone special, and Matthews seemed to offer everything and more. He drew them in with his friendly personality and impressive career. With his title and charm, Matthews quickly earned their trust. After all, he was a doctor, someone people depend on in their most vulnerable moments, but his kind exterior hid a much darker plan behind his friendly conversations and caring actions. Stephen Matthews' victims didn't know they were walking into a trap when they accepted his invitation to his home and found themselves in a situation they couldn't control or even remember. It was supposed to be a simple first date, a casual evening with someone who seemed safe and genuine. A young school teacher met him on a dating app. After a few friendly chats, Matthews offered to host them for drinks, which sounded like a harmless idea. She thought she had found someone who was not only a successful doctor, but also kind, attentive, and down-to-earth. His clean, cozy Denver townhouse had soft lighting and relaxing music playing in the background. After greeting her with a warm smile, Matthews put her at ease right away. They enjoyed a few drinks together, laughed, and talked about their lives and goals. But soon, her laughter stopped as a strange, unsettling feeling took over. At first, she felt a little dizzy, but it got worse quickly. Her vision became blurry, and it felt like the room was closing in on her. She tried to focus on Matthews, but his face looked fuzzy, and her own voice seemed far away. Suddenly, she could barely sit up straight. She knew something was wrong, but her mind was slipping away, like she was falling into a dark, uncontrollable hole. Haze. When she finally woke up, hours had passed, and she was in Matthew's bed, her clothes strewn around her, and she felt a huge wave of fear and confusion. Her head hurt, her mouth was dry, and her memories were all over the place. Only flashes of the previous night came back to her in pieces. She remembered seeing his face above her, but nothing else was clear. The feeling of losing her memory and control left her completely shaken. She tried to figure out what had happened, but it was like her mind wouldn't let her. As she stumbled out of his townhouse in a day, her mind kept racing, and she couldn't figure out how a simple drink with someone she trusted could turn into something so bad. While she was still confused and ashamed, she had a strong sense that whatever had happened was much scarier than she could have imagined. As she would later learn, her story was not unique. Matthew's victims would all wake up to the same terrifying nightmare in his home. The investigation into Stephen Matthews' crimes began when a single woman, who was upset and determined to find justice, told the Denver police about what had happened. She told the police about a horrible time when she passed out after drinking at Matthew's house and woke up with jumbled memories of the night before. She knew something terrible had happened, and as more memories came back, in short, disturbing flashes, she realized she had probably been raped. She told the police about Matthews because she wanted answers and wanted him to be held responsible. What happened next revealed a pattern of horror that shocked the investigators. Denver police took her story seriously, and when they went to Matthew's house right away with a search warrant, they found shocking things. Investigators found a number of sedative drugs and small jars that are usually used for anesthetics that were much stronger than normal medicines. The case became even more disturbing when it was found that Matthews had taken several movies and photos of his victim without her knowledge. These pictures show women who were either barely conscious or completely unconscious and clearly unable to give their consent. As more proof came in, police thought Matthews' predatory behavior might be much worse than they first thought. After a call to the public 9, more women bravely came forward with similar stories. All of them said Matthews was friendly and trustworthy, and that he earned their trust before inviting them to his home. The stories were similar in that Matthews would give them drinks that tasted a little off, and they would quickly become confused and lose their memories. When they woke up, they had gaps in their memories and felt violated and disoriented. Some of the victims said that Matthews would later brush off their concerns, saying that they were just being dramatic or that they didn't have a high tolerance for alcohol. This was a common way for Matthews to get his victims to question their own memories and blame themselves for what had happened. Matthews made them feel like they, one woman said, "Deep down, I knew this wasn't right. My voice was filled with pain and frustration." Investigators found that Matthews used his job as a doctor to trick the women into believing his version of what happened. He often told them they had just had enough, which made them feel guilty or ashamed and kept them from getting help, according to court papers. A lead officer said Matthews was a skilled con artist who preyed on people's weaknesses and used his charm to hide what he really wanted to do. The officer said that he didn't just hurt these women physically, he also broke their trust in themselves and their memories. He was cruel and planned what he did. The investigation showed that Matthews had been drugging women for years and using their trust to control them for his own gain. One of the most damning pieces of evidence was the collection of trophies, videos, and photos that Matthews kept as if he wanted to keep control over them. The recordings showed Matthews interacting with his victims while they were unconscious, often catching moments when the women tried to resist or regain consciousness but were too drunk to react. The depth of the investigation made it clear what Matthews was up to: the drugs, the videos, and the consistent pattern of behavior. Each piece of evidence pointed to a man who didn't care about the lives he was ruining. Police and lawyers worked hard to build a strong case using victim statements, physical evidence, and Matthews' own recorded footage to make sure justice was done. One brave woman's report of Matthews' abuse sparked a larger movement, with each victim finding strength in numbers to stand up to him. As one prosecutor put it, "This is more than a case of assault. It's a case about power and how far someone was willing to go to get what they wanted." When Matthews was finally caught and charged, he was facing 35 counts of crimes, including sexual assault, drugging with intent to harm, and tampering with evidence. Each charge represented not only a crime, but also the silent pain of his victims, who had lived through a nightmare that Matthews had carefully created to keep them quiet. The investigation was just the start of a long journey toward. As more information was uncovered about Stephen Matthews' case, disturbing patterns became clear. Not only did Matthews not want a normal relationship, he also wanted something much worse. He would get women to come to his house, where he had control, and then put drugs in their drinks to make them unconscious. His goal wasn't just to make his victims unconscious, he also wanted them to forget the assault so they couldn't question or accuse him. One of the scariest things that was found was his collection of trophies, videos, and photos that he took of his victims while they were unconscious from the drugs. These pictures show the women struggling or barely conscious, and Matthews kept them all for himself as a reminder of how much power he had over them. This collection made it clear that Matthews' actions were planned, intentional, and worst of all, routine. During the trial, lawyers put forward a number of theories to explain Matthews' actions. Many of them suggested that his behavior was caused by deep narcissism and a disturbing lack of respect for other people's rights. He acted like he had the right to do whatever he wanted without any consequences. Gaslighting his victims by telling them they drank too much or couldn't handle their alcohol was another way he kept them in line, by making them doubt their own experiences and stay silent. Was it power that drove him, the thrill of having full control over someone else? Or did he see his victims as things instead of people with rights and freedoms? These questions hung heavy in the courtroom, causing everyone to face the shocking truth of how he had lied to them. Matthews' crimes showed not only a string of assaults, but also a well-thought-out plan to take away his victims' freedom, trust, and memories for his own twisted pleasure. Stephen Matthews' trial was intense, emotional, and full of painful memories brought up by his victims in court. Matthews had to face the weight of his actions as victim after victim bravely took the stand and read impact statements that showed how deeply his crimes had traumatized them. These women, who had been filled with shame and doubt, now spoke with clear voices about the nightmares, trust issues, and emotional scars his crimes had left them with. Many people called him a narcissistic monster who showed no remorse for his actions. The judge spoke directly to Matthews, calling his actions disgusting and saying that he had made this world a worse place. The judge said that the evidence was overwhelming and painted a clear picture of a man who repeatedly broke trust, hid behind his title as a doctor, and used others to get what he wanted. Finally, Matthews was sentenced to 158 years in prison, which was both fair and an acknowledgement of the lasting pain he had caused. The victims and their families let out a wave of joy and applause, which was a small but powerful way to end the tragedy. Denver Deputy Attorney Beth McCann thought about how important the case was and said, "This sentence shows that those who exploit and manipulate others for their own gain will face the fullest extent of justice." She praised the bravery of the women who came forward, saying that their actions had made sure that Matthews would no longer hurt anyone else. For the victims, knowing that he would spend the rest of his life in prison and not be able to prey on others was a big step toward healing. The trial ended Matthews' reign of terror and was a moment of justice for his survivors who were finally freed from his grip. Stephen Matthews' story is a scary warning of what can happen when trust is used as a weapon. Relationships based on safety and respect are sacred, and when those foundations are broken, the effects can be terrible. Matthew's crimes show the hard truth. Not everyone with a high position or a charming personality wants to do good. This story shows how important it is to hold people accountable and speak out against those who abuse their power. Thank you for watching this episode of Truth Uncovered. If you found this story intriguing, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with others who love true crime. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take. And remember, new mysteries are waiting to be uncovered every day. So, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to join us as we delve into the darkest corners of human nature. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and always uncover the truth.